Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we will be talking about the survival horror film Sweetheart, directed by J.D. Dillard and released on streaming October 22nd, 2019. And this one's kind of an interesting one that came out of nowhere, out of left field, because if you've listened to this, you know we just did our looking forward kind of special. We're like, let's find movies we've never heard of, and this wasn't included in there. But I was going back and I was like, I have a list of movies, and this was in there. And then I was like, I don't even know what that is. Why did I write that down? And then I also happened to see a Facebook article just randomly pop up, and it was it was about this movie. It didn't give anything away, but it was just here's a Blumhouse movie you've never heard of that was actually really good. And so I was like,
yeah,
okay. It's we've been liking to cover some Blumhouse stuff, and kind of fits that something new and random that we could just take a chance with. So I was like, I don't know anything about it. I roughly know it's a monster movie that's different, and that's all I know. I don't know any kind of synopsis. I don't know the cast. I know nothing. I know it's short, and we've been busy, so that also helps.
Yes, we have been busy. I just got back from Montreal, and It was a great week. And getting back into the swing of things, sometimes the landing after a vacation can be a little bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
So this one seemed to fit within what we were kind of looking for this week. So
yeah, something easy, something quick, something fun.
Yeah,
we don't have to sit and really deep dive a bunch of names and deeper emotional and psychological and mental things. We can just it is what it is, and let's talk about it. So
sometimes that is the movie that you need. You know, it's the ones that you can have a good conversation, but it doesn't have to go too deep. But it can still be a lot of fun. And I think this one is definitely that. I knew nothing about this one when you suggested it. I went in without seeing any previews or trailers. I saw a familiar face right away, so I was pretty excited. But I had no idea what I was going to be watching, and it was an interesting watch. The concept is kind of basic, but it definitely had some connections to some of the things going on today, because I did a little bit of research into it, and so I found out a couple of things about it that, it just kind of connects to where we were at during the time the movie was being put together. So it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. Didn't know anything about it at all going into it, either of us. And so this was just kind of we'll see what happens. And I think as we talk about it, I'll go ahead and say off the bat, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I was it was, let's see, how did I kind of sum it up with, it was an interesting short movie, not too deep, but it was fun. And works for me.
Definitely. I enjoyed it too. It was different. It's not that often that we go in and do a movie that neither of us has seen or heard anything really about. Usually one of us has seen it. This one was just it was different. The concept's kind of simple, but there are little things that are kind of like an onion that you peel away as you go through it, and you realize kind of what's happening. So I'm looking forward to chatting about it, because I think, I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we will do it the way we always do, by doing a few production notes. It was filmed on Bounty Island in Fiji. The idea for the movie came to J.D. Dillard when he was in Virginia Beach with some of his friends. He was just standing and looking out at the water and trying to think of, what would be the scariest thing that could happen. And he decided that it would be if a creature just stood up and looked at him. Thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. The name of the film comes from one line of dialogue. I think he actually said it maybe twice. Lucas calls Jen sweetheart. And so that's where the title came from. Kind of interesting because it I don't know if it really matches.
Right. It feels out of place from everything, but like I also don't hate it. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. It's kind of random. It feels a little random, but I'm okay with it. I think it works for what we're watching. It was 82 minutes long. Pake, bring us a synopsis.
Mm-hmm. Well, a woman washes ashore on a small, uninhabited island after an accident, and the situation turns from bad to worse when she realizes that there is a mysterious creature hunting at night.
Oh, yeah. So I was pretty stoked right from the beginning because Kiersey Clemons. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about
we saw
May
her a lot.
From Monarch. I was super stoked for that right away. I thought, oh my gosh, this is great to get to see her in a different role.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I didn't know she was in it or anything, so it's just that like, oh, hey, like, we just, watched all of Monarch, and then we covered the finale on Wilhelm and stuff with Mark and Ben, so that was really cool to be like, oh, her again. Plus there's a couple other little things. There's one other actor that I noticed immediately as well, but I'll get to that. But yeah, I've been getting this, like, even after Monarch ended, I'm still spending some time with some of the most important characters or bigger characters on there, because now seeing her here, and then, of course, I'm just going to say, Shogun. I'm going to plug it at the end of this, I'm sure, when we're doing who's covering what, and we give some shout-outs, but Shogun's been so good, and Anna Sawai, who was Kate in Monarch, is one of the stars of Shogun, and she's killing it there, too. Yeah.
Wow, I have not watched it. I watched it the first time around, when it came out a couple of decades ago. So I haven't watched this version of it. But it's interesting that we're doing this movie and we have this tie to Monarch because as we're recording this, a certain movie comes out this weekend that we will be covering.
Today. The day we're recording, it's playing in theaters right now.
Yeah.
Which means... I told Daphne this earlier before we were recording. I have Sunday off this weekend, which means I'm going to see Godzilla this weekend.
Yes, on Easter. You're going to see Godzilla on Easter. Mm-hmm. What a great treat for yourself.
That's the thing I need to be rising on Easter for me, is just a big giant monster out of the ocean. He has risen, indeed.
Yeah. I have enjoyed this series so much, so I'm looking forward to getting back to it. See what we get in this Godzilla Kong sequel continued story that we're getting with the Monsterverse. So I'm excited for it. I have not seen it, obviously, because it's coming out today, but I'm looking forward to it. Probably will go see it, if not Saturday, probably next week sometime. I'll pop out. I don't know. I have a very busy week next week when it comes to the evenings. Mm-hmm. They're booked up pretty well.
All right. But yeah, so back to Sweetheart. Talk this. I say that and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll think I almost was going to say Sweet Tooth, and I miss covering that show. Again, tangent. Let's get off the tangents, but final season comes out this year. I'm ready to get that eventually. Anyway.
Oh, so am I. Okay, so yes, let's go to Sweetheart.
Yeah, so Kiersey Clemons plays the character of Jen. And yeah, it was really cool. Just the way, we're thrown in the beginning of this movie, just as lost as she is. You know, she wakes up, washed ashore on this island, quickly realizing that, she's on her own and not really knowing what's going on. The movie starts underwater, moving, and I was like, oops, it's Jaws. We're watching Jaws. No.
If we were watching
something else, but similar, but something else.
If we were watching Jaws, Rima would be here.
Yeah.
Because that is, like, the standard when it comes to those movies. But, no.
Yeah. Yeah, somehow she survived the wreckage of their boat, which we don't know about. She was out with some friends, and the boat crashed, and they all kind of got separated. Like, we know that, like, Lucas and Mia end up on the raft for, like, an extra couple of days, and then her and Brad washed up ashore, and then I think Zach was with Mia and...
Zach was with Mia and Lucas, and his demise, I have to question.
It's a little suspect, yeah. They don't go into it at all, which was weird, but, like, there was definitely some foul play at hand that they hinted at.
Yeah, there's definitely some hints of things, like with the knife and the life raft itself, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I was trying to find out, like, if this is, like, some, like, known island where they were planning to be, or is, like, if she finding herself in a place she never expected to be. Does she know what's going on? Like, where did you come from? Where did you go? Where'd you come from? Woman on the beach. You know? I don't know. Yeah. So really, if we go by characters, and so we didn't mention that, but there's one character to really cover. Like, yeah. I have Jen, and then I have a few other notes under literally any other human is how it's marked.
Yes.
And then I've got some about the monster, the creature, but
yeah.
But she is there, so I'll dip into the other human notes probably as we go. Because, yeah, we said Brad washes up with her, but he doesn't live long. He's stabbed by Coral, which, ow. Speaking of Coral, that's where I recognize that actor from.
Of course.
I immediately was like, that's who that is. It didn't take me long at all.
No question.
I was like, okay, Benedict Samuel, you thought I wouldn't recognize you without the W on your forehead, but I did. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. He also played the Mad Hatter in Gotham and was which was so good.
Yeah. I never finished Gotham, but I did see that season and stuff. I saw when he would show up, so I was like, yeah.
So good. So good. I feel like he's very underrated. Mm-hmm. I want to see him in more stuff, but he hasn't done like tons and tons of things. He's just done things here and there sprinkled, basically. Yep.
Yeah, of course, like one of his dying things, he says, he's just like, did you see it? And I was like, ooh. I bet it was something crazy. I hope it was.
Yeah, that led me to believe that the creature somehow was involved in the accident with the boat or the boat sinking or whatever. Because why else would he say that? Yeah.
Like, it was involved somehow, so they probably weren't too far off from that island anyway.
I do question, though, and I'm not a medical professional, I don't think she should have pulled the coral out.
Probably not, but also she's definitely not like a medical professional, so she probably wouldn't know or think about it. And then...
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean... There's not like any other medical personnel that actually do anything out there.
No. No. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it.
Yeah. Which, you wonder how many other people have wound up on this island, kind of what's the situation, why is it not known? And we only find out about like one other family that was there, because Jen finds the supplies and equipment. A lot of it kind of seems like it's been there a long time, which I was a little confused about because it was like real dusty and like dirty and, worn and stuff. And I was like, okay, so it's been there a long time. But then the suitcase with the photos of the family pops up and it looks brand new. So I was like,
yeah,
how long? I was like, I don't. And are we supposed to assume that like that stuff came out of the monster's pit, or is like, it wasn't, there's a lot of things. It's a very short movie, so there's a lot of questions that are just left unanswered.
Yeah. I mean, I called them the Coke family.
Yeah.
That's what I called them because they had 2 Cokes in the cooler. But Ellie, I guess, is the mom. And the thing that stuck out to me the first watch, but I didn't actually stop it and look at it until the second watch, is the pill bottle. Like, what were the pills that were in that bottle? It's actually a drug called flufenazine, which is an antipsychotic med used to treat schizophrenia and psychotic symptoms such as hallucinations, delusions, and hostility.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm like, oh boy. So had I done that in the beginning, I probably would have questioned this movie until the end. Like wondering, what's real and what isn't, because
maybe would side with Lucas a little bit more. Like, is she making things up, or at least is she thinking she's seeing things that she's not? Yeah.
But I don't want to side with Lucas.
No.
Because I didn't really like him. I didn't like him. I felt like he treated her, him and Mia treated her like they were better than her. Like,
yeah.
They looked kind of like down on her, and I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, especially Lucas. I was like, wait, so they were a couple, were?
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately it's like, oh, he's going to blame her for the...
Yeah.
Like, he's going to blame the shipwreck on her depression? Like...
Yeah.
Maybe it's best that he does get eaten, because what a douche. And then he pulls the whole, like, I paid for everything and you're nothing without me card. And I was like, all right,
man.
can we cue the monster now, please?
Yes. And I have to tell you this about the monster. They nicknamed him Charlie.
Okay.
The monster. So I looked for that because I wanted to know if it had kind of a cool name like Clover or Bruce. And Charlie is the name. But yes, I was cheering for Lucas to die. And you know how I am when it comes to guys that are being a douche. I have no patience for, so I wanted him to go. And I had no use for Mia either. I mean, I felt bad for her at first before we really got to know her a little bit. And by really get to know, I mean, we learned a smidge more because she was dating Brad, it seems like, and she was devastated about his death.
Yeah.
However,
like how devastated, because like also her and Lucas kind of had this like vibe.
I did wonder about that. What were we doing on the raft together for a couple days? Yeah.
Murdering Zach.
Yes, I believe they were involved with Zach's death, and I still.
Because Jen borrows his knife and there's like blood and stuff on it.
Yes.
And then when she does get in the raft, it's like bloody and stuff on the bottom. And Lucas had made some comment to like, you know, because she was like freaking out about what she'd seen and stuff. And like he was trying to get control of her. And it was like, well, I don't want another situation like Zach. And she's like, what happened to Zach? And
right.
Yeah.
I think maybe Zach saw the creature and freaked out. And so they took him out. I mean, it's really weird. Half of his body washed up. Creature doesn't do that. The creature takes them completely down underneath into the hole. It doesn't seem to have a habit of biting them in half or leaving half to float up. So I don't think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, another one of those like unanswered questions. That's like, okay.
I think Lucas and Mia were complicit in Zach's demise. How it happened, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they were complicit in it.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, just her trying to survive. Going back a little bit with Jen, just trying to survive. So she finds this stuff. I did know she's picking up fish off the beach at first. And I was like, I don't think I would trust dead fish that washed ashore as food.
Well, if they're still flopping around, they're technically not dead.
Some of them weren't.
No, I wouldn't eat those that had.
I was like, I'd have to be much more desperate before I'm like, because obviously if they're like just dead on the beach, something was wrong.
Yeah, no. I would not trust the dead fish, but if they were still flopping about, I probably would get a bucket with some water and put them in the bucket.
Yeah.
To keep them alive until I decided to eat them. But no, not dead fish.
Yeah.
That's like food poisoning waiting to happen. And I don't think that would be a fun experience on a deserted island.
No. Not at all.
No.
And it's like she goes through her stuff and like, at first I was like, I'm going to say that is a really sturdy backpack if everything was still dry.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, never mind. That journal is burnt.
Yeah, it's a mess. That journal, yeah. There are no words. They've all been washed away, but the pictures are still okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get the impression, oh, she must have a boyfriend because there are pictures of her with someone wearing a skull mask. So you kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
You don't get a ton of information.
It really isn't.
It doesn't go deep. It's very surface level. Although I did enjoy her character because I felt like, especially after meeting Lucas and Mia, that she was really an underdog because they were just dismissing her and acting like she was crazy. And I feel like she was actually pretty resourceful at times.
Yeah.
Although watching her break into the coconut with the rock at the beginning.
Yeah. And she like picks it up and it's like half of it's already like poured out. And I was like, that's not how you...
No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Yeah.
But yeah, she just keeps exploring. Yeah, the graves. She finds the graves of the other family. It's like, that's not a promising sign.
No.
And then goes back and finds Brad and he's done for at that point. And I was feeling real jokey through some of these. So dark humor. Because of course with, she has she makes his grave. It's got his initial on. And I was like, Patty Grave, sailor man. Dig me a grave as fast as you can. Dig it and fill it and mark it with a B. Now it's a grave for Brad, you see. Yay!
You're a poet and you didn't know it. Or maybe you did. However, Brad doesn't like to stay buried in the dirt.
Yeah, that was the first moment of the movie that I literally... There was a few times where I had to stop and go... they got the jaw drop, little shock, oh, okay. And that was the first one where I was like, yeah, that's horrifying. Is she walks around the corner and something had come and dug up the grave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, thank you. And the fact that she immediately goes to making a spear, I was like, that's probably a good idea.
Yes, that's smart. Definitely need to do that. We didn't get a lot of dialogue, especially in the first half of this movie, so a lot was really told through facial expressions and reactions from her. And I liked that because it really broke everything down to the bare essentials. It wasn't, it seemed like this is, obviously you're by yourself on an island. I guess you can talk to yourself, but
I would be.
You would be.
Talk to myself all the time.
And Pake, what would you tell yourself if you were on an island by yourself?
Oh, I don't know. I'd keep myself entertained. I'd probably make little people out of the coconut husks and talk with them. And have friends.
Your own version of Wilson. Fast.
Yeah, mentally, I'd check out and go somewhere else, day 2.
Okay. All right. I get that, I guess. Yeah. The thing that got me is when you get the little glimpses, kind of like it with Jaws, where suddenly the shark that was hanging disappears. But I loved when she shot the flare and the flare comes down.
Oh my God.
That was so impactful to see.
That was the kind of, as far as just kind of a kitschy movie that this is for the most part. Again, not to say it's bad. I enjoyed it, but it just kind of as it's this monster movie. That might be one of the best monster reveals I've seen in a long time.
Oh my gosh. It was great.
Awesome. I appreciated it a lot. I liked a lot of the creature stuff in there. Just kind of while she's hiding from it, the sounds it made. I really like the sounds. And just seeing it moving in the shadows in the background.
Yes.
And stuff. Early on, I was like, I'm in. I'm so in. I was like, this is the kind of stuff I love, is the very small glimpses, shadow, background reveals of creatures that kind of grow as the movie goes. I love that stuff.
That reminded me,
ritual, right?
Have you ever seen Signs?
Yes. Yeah.
That reminds me a little bit of the creatures in that because they weren't overly shown. And so what we did see was effective.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And so seeing the creature come up like that with the flare reminded me a little bit of Walking Dead when Beta arises from one of the graves in Alexandria. And you're just like, Oh my God, that was it was effective the way that it shot.
Yeah.
But I really liked that, I feel like the tension it created, Kiersey Clemons did a really good job with showing us through her face and mannerisms what Jen was going through or what she was feeling. Because again, there was no dialogue really.
Yeah. Just her acting and then just like the visuals. Because even before you really see much of the creature, like you get that kind of the shadow and the outline out in the water with the flare. And then it's like even just things that are like connected to it when she sees the hole in the ocean floor, and you're like, oh, this movie's gonna have some like WTF moments. And then when she's looking through the photos and the eyes in the background, like little things like that, and you're like, okay, like it's building the tension, and I love that.
Yeah, it's very Jaws-like in the way that it tells the story and it builds the tension without you actually seeing much of anything, and so you start to question, what am I looking for? What am I waiting for? What's really going to happen? And I liked when she was in the hammock. She made that makeshift hammock and she starts to slide down. But even before that, she's in the hammock and you look over in the trees and you can see the creature starting in the shadows. Yeah. Oh, man. It was great.
And you were saying something about, like, because I was mentioning the sounds it was making, and you were asking something.
Oh, yeah. There were moments in the creature sound that I thought it sounded less like a monster and more like another being, like not a human being, but like more human-like. Yeah. And I would be listening, watching the movie and listening to the creature, and there'd be like a couple little sounds, and I'd be, but that sounds almost like a person. Like how? Yeah, that's how it struck me. And then it would go right back into the creature sounds again.
Yeah, I like the sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just keeps. So it's like during the day she's just trying different things, and then at night trying other things to survive.
Yeah. And hiding in trunks.
Yeah. It was like suitcase raft, bad idea.
Oh my gosh.
Worth a shot, I guess. It was creative. Log shelter, though. I was like, well, we'll see. It seemed to work once, but that was definitely not a viable long-term plan.
No. But her little dig a hole and put a palm over it, that worked probably the best of everything.
That was the best. I don't know why she went from that to hammock. Because I was like, hammock plan was another one of your bad ones.
Yeah. I think
she's really smart, but she's not the best at making the right plans.
No, I think she was probably trying to be up there so she could look and survey everything from higher up. But it doesn't work with this creature because, it just doesn't. Yeah. And, I mean, it just kept coming back. Like, it knew that she was there, and so every night it was coming back and looking for her, which just built to the tension. It's like, you knew, like, as the sun was going down, immediately it's dread. Like, here comes another night, it's coming back on shore, and it's looking for me. Yeah. And it's just terrifying. You can put yourself in her position. And it builds that up so you think that the only safe time is during the day, and you're safe everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily the case.
Maybe not, yeah. I thought it was funny, she seemed a little shocked that the shark swam up to her, that she ended up spearing. I was like, you did chum the water. I don't know what you're expecting.
Yeah, I mean...
but I was like, bravo on the spearfishing. You got a shark, and I'm sure that the creature was super appreciative of your offering.
Yeah, but he's not going to stop coming to get you. He's still going to look for you. And then
she decides science and hangs half of Zach's body up there to see if it looks. And I was like, well, don't feed it. It's just going to keep coming back,
So we have a stray creature.
That's how you get pests. You just keep feeding them. They're going to keep coming back.
Oh, man. She did make the most of what she had for tools, which were mostly like sharp rocks. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, do you really want to feed the creature that shark, or do you want to cook it up for yourself? Like, I don't understand.
The shark was for her, and she hung it up, not realizing that it was like, oh, I was just literally like...
But she was kind of watching it. Like, she was watching, and then she was
looking at it, and then she fell asleep and then heard a sound and looked up, and it was like, oh, and it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. And then she looked at the rope the next day and saw that it was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was an offering to the Lord Charlie of the sea. Is that like Charlie for the tuna? What is it? Sun-kissed tuna? Or Chicken of the Sea has Charlie?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I didn't think of it until now, and
right.
Yeah, maybe that's where they got it.
In my notes, it was just the monster or the creature, except for in one little joke, which I'll get to, he was Sharky. But
Sharky. Oh boy.
But yeah, so she's like hiding out at night, and it's like, oh, of course, the plane of possible safety is going to be flying overhead while the monster is nearby, and by nearby I mean like very nearby.
Yeah. I don't know why the plane didn't see her flare the first night that she shot it. I mean...
Either that or the people in the plane were like, oh, no, that's Shark Monster Island. We don't go there.
We don't go there. What, is it like Jurassic Park?
Right.
Or The Lost World? Like, we don't go there. We don't go to that island. Oh, my gosh.
That's Isla Shark Bait. We don't touch it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So yeah, bad plan with the hammock. And then all this, the stuff that keeps appearing in the water, different things. She was like, man, a lot of things have just like appeared out in the water at random, but I wasn't expecting more cast members for the movie to appear in the water.
No.
That's the thing that pops up next. Wow.
Well, it made me think kind of like the Hunger Games. You know how they send little things to the contestants? Well, I thought, oh, she gets a suitcase and... oh, look, there's a dead body. I mean, you just don't know what's going to come next.
Yeah. And I didn't even, I was like, oh, so just like some other random strangers. Like, it didn't click to me that they were from the same wreck because it had been several days.
Yeah.
But then the second she sees them and they're all like hugging and, oh my God. And so I was like, these are her friends. Cause I didn't think so at first. I was like, oh, more people. It's like a Bermuda Triangle kind of thing where just different people keep getting wrecked and pulled in. But no, it's the same wreck.
Well, it's definitely not the Blue Lagoon, which I'm sure you haven't seen. And some people may have seen it and will get my reference as far as like, it's a very different movie than this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she's like telling them what's going on and they don't believe her about the monster. I'm like, well, you just wait till night, then you will. And then they still didn't at night until... yeah, because she's like freaking out. It's like, they're going to stay. Which is, very much like, oh no, we refuse to leave. Because, we need to recover on the island. And so Jen's freaking out. So she's like, I'm not spending another night with that thing. So y'all have fun with that. I'm going to bounce.
I was cheering for her. I wanted her to get away from them because honestly, they deserved it for being so stupid.
But they stop her, and I was like, man, it went from like, what was it that I said? It it escalated very quickly. It went from I'm leaving to hitting the head with an oar very quickly in record time.
I felt bad. I'm just like, look, let her go. You've already said you don't want to be on the raft anymore. We don't really know what happened, but we know shit went down on it. So you stay here and hang out and let her go.
Yeah.
And if I were her, I would say no other survivors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they didn't believe her until, that night because they like tie her up and it's like, you're staying, we're staying. And then the monster appears when Mia's taking a little long walk on the beach. And then Lucas sees it too. And I was like, whack it with a torch. That'll do it.
That'll really, really help. And his reaction after it took Mia into the ocean and he got up in a tree and was terrified. I was like, see? You
Did someone order the told you so?
Yep. Here it is. A big heaping helping of it.
Yeah. And now he's ready to leave.
Of course. Yeah.
And then again, with the raft, Lucas definitely 100% killed Zach. And we don't know for what reason.
No.
But
absolutely. Absolutely. He decides, they need to get off the island at that point. Only thing is, we learned something about the creature that I really didn't know before, which is that the creature, even if it isn't on land until the evening, it's definitely still in the water and it's swimming around.
Yeah. And so once again, Jen's all on her own.
Yep. All by myself. That's her theme song.
Yep. No more raft. No more friends. However, she's done hiding.
Yep.
It's time for her to fight back or die trying. Like, she leaves this note behind with a warning for any other unfortunate souls who end up washing up on this island in the future if she fails. She's like, this is what's going on. I'll give you a little bit more warning than I had, and hopefully that means something. But I guess it doesn't really matter, because she does take care of business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I fought Sharky in a burning ring of fire. I went stab, 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 'cause the stakes were dire.
Yes, and Pake will be releasing his album. I'm collecting songs that he's been singing. We're going to release an album, the Run for Your Lives tracks, at some point when I have enough material.
So she fights back and gets the job done. I said, she does trip and fall. Rocks, in like all kinds of movies and shows, rocks just love being where people's heads are when they fall.
Yes.
All the time. But she's okay, folks. It's all right.
Yes.
She gets right back up and then takes him out on the beach a little bit more, and fatality. Winner. Jen.
She's a tough one, that Jen. Yeah. She had dug up bones. She was trying to think and find anything she could use it as a weapon, and she had them stashed all over the place. So wherever she fell, she could grab something.
Yeah.
So she was ready to attack it. And
finally, she had a good plan.
She had a great plan. She can have a good plan when it's not, infiltrated by friends who won't listen. Friends who are privileged and look down on her because she isn't, basically.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I've covered. I've got a couple extra little ideas, or notes and thoughts on the monster itself, but it's a quick one. It
is all a really quick one. It is what it is. There's nothing that you have to dissect, really. I have some stuff about the creature. Can you imagine, being Andrew Crawford, who is he's a ballet dancer from Australia, who had only ever done this type of work once. He was a xenomorph in Alien Covenant. Well, J.D. Dillard wanted someone who hadn't done a million of them. He wanted something that was a little bit different. So enter Andrew Crawford. You're in Fiji. It's beautiful. It's hot. And he's wearing a costume that weighs 180 pounds.
Oof. Yeah. I could tell that thing was heavy. That's a lot of rubber and latex. And that's a lot.
It's very much an endurance gig. It's not just part of the creative process. It's something so much more, because you have to survive being the creature.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot.
Yeah. So creature design, at first, because again, the little glimpses, the flare outline, the walking around in the dark, things like that, especially when after the hammock and she's running on the beach, and the way it keeps diving in and out of the water for speed. I was like, damn, that's cool. The creature stuff was very well done. And at that point I was like, I want to get a really good look at this thing eventually. I'm sure we will by the end of the movie, but the glimpses were so good. And then we got the better look when they were in the raft. And I was like, okay, so the monster has a shark head. I was like, this street shark is going rogue. And I remember I was like, I wanted to see the creature, but then on second thought, maybe I prefer it in the shadows, because it was. I was like, I don't know. It looked a little like goofy in some ways. But then, even though I was like not the biggest fan of the design, it did grow on me. By the time of the final fight, I was back on board with it. I was like, no, it's cool design. Because again, it was like in the dark and shadows, and you couldn't see some of the like kind of flaws or things. But as I said, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the design, when it's like fully clearly seen, I appreciated the amount of practical effects that went into it. That it wasn't
absolutely.
just, let's just throw some CGI monster on the screen that you could look at it, and unfortunately you can tell it's a costume. Mm-hmm. But also you can tell it's a costume, which means they put practical effects thought into it versus just throwing animation at it, which is always good.
Yeah. We, as anyone who listens knows, we do appreciate practical effects. Cool little personal note, Kiersey Clemons actually fell in love with her stunt double on the set of this movie. Ebony Dillard is her partner in real life. And they met and fell in love on the set of this movie.
That's fun.
The script.
It's like the less dramatic, less scandalous version of the Orange is the New Black situation.
Oh. That's a show I have not...
Yeah, there's an actress on there who fell in love with, like, a crew member on the show, and then but it was, like, more of, like, an affair kind of situation that really turned out into other stuff, I think, if I remember correctly. Like, remember seeing that and being like,
So one of the other pieces, Kiersey Clemons said in an interview that the story was a political allegory with a racial empowerment theme. And she said, as I quote, "At the time we were really reacting to the 2016 election and the fear of this monster being in office. We wanted the creature to be this big, white, translucent figure because normally scary things are dark. We wanted to do something completely the opposite of that. There's a lot of low-key political themes in it." She also said that J.D. Dillard, who is African American, wrote it visually imagining one of his sisters playing the role, and he would not have made it without a black woman being in the lead. Yep. She said it also plays into those themes of black female hysteria and people not believing black women or people of color when we say that we're in danger or that something is violent to us. So despite on the surface looking to be pretty, simple plot, there was a little more thought that went into it than what we thought. Do you have anything else?
I'm good. I'm done.
Oh my goodness.
That's a quick one, but yeah, that's not
wow.
Good. I've got all my notes done.
Well, I think then we did it. I hope that our listeners give this movie a try because it's a monster film, which is at the very essence when this podcast was started, monsters and creature features were the main focus.
Yeah.
Now,
we've branched out a lot.
We have.
With some other things, but yeah, this felt fun to watch as like very Run for Your Lives core. Back to the roots a little bit. Right
down to the creature. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm wondering what our listeners think of it.
Well, good thing that we have a feedback phone that rings almost as if on cue whenever you say something like that. It's
I know.
wild.
I'm in tune with the feedback phone.
Yeah. So I should go answer that and we'll find out. All right, a little bit of feedback this week. We've got a good little bit. Honestly, I'm surprised a little bit at the amount that we've got for this movie being something that like was kind of under the radar. Of course, it's not all for this movie, but we've got some good feedback this week, and I always appreciate that. So, get started. We're going back a few weeks to Get Out because we are catching up with our friend Tony, who's finally leaving us some more messages here. We got back in contact with her. I know she left Twitter, X, whatever, and I don't blame her, and so we're back in contact. We can get some more stuff.
Yeah.
And so about Get Out, Tony says, I was listening to your conversation about Get Out, and you kept saying the character Rose is eating Frosted Flakes, but it wasn't. It was Fruit Loops. And Continues on, says, and funny story, I'm married to a black man, and I eat Fruit Loops like this, and when he saw this movie for the first time, and this scene came on, the look that my man gave me, he was shook. Afterwards, he was saying, I always thought it was weird the way you eat your cereal. Luckily, he got over it. I thought it was hilarious.
I love it. Well, Tony kept it coming because she gave us her feedback for World War Z. She said, I just listened to World War Z coverage and I'm finally catching up, but I'd still like to throw a couple suggestions at you. Of course, we talked about it before, but Cursed, The Ruins, Werewolves Within, 47 Meters Uncaged, The Reef, Diane and Divine Meet the Apocalypse, funny movie I watched during COVID on Prime, and the last one I could think of, Cujo. I'm so happy when I heard you mention Silver Bullet. I love that movie. Obviously, werewolves, along with vampires and sharks, are some of my favorites.
Nice. Yeah, we'll look into that. We got the list never ends. We've always got plenty of stuff to go to. So I love that listeners always throwing some stuff out there too. And we've done some of those. So not some of the ones you mentioned, but some of the ones that listeners have sent in the past. Mm-hmm. We've dug into. So they're always on the list. And one more from Tony. Now we are on this week's movie with Sweetheart, where she says, I have seen Sweetheart. It has been a while, but I remember liking it.
Excellent. Tony, it's so great to have your feedback in our mailbox. Really appreciate it. Please keep it coming. Our next one is from Catherine, who says, I hadn't heard of Sweetheart, but I knew it had to be good being a Blumhouse production. I loved when she's running down the beach at night, and despite seeing so little of the creature, we learn so much about how it moves, attacks, and can be stabbed fairly easily. Adding the girl who cried wolf storyline was a great way to keep the pressure up. Even if she survived, likely no one would ever believe her, and she might be blamed for the deaths of her companions. Interesting. I felt a little bad for the creature, but that may be because it's so shark-like and always have a soft spot for sharks. It seemed like it just happened to live in a sea cave near this island and was just hungry, or maybe territorial. What if it was the last of its kind? What if it had a family in that cave that it was taking food, aka Lucas, to? But in the end, I was still rooting for Jen and loved how she took a stand and was so resourceful.
That's great. Thanks, Catherine. And then we have one last one this week for Sweetheart from Sam, who says, this movie made me a big Kiersey Clemens fan. She holds this movie on her shoulders so well. I was stressed and impressed with the pacing and acting. Great monster movie.
Couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. It's one I'd never heard of until Pake suggested it, and it turned out to be quite a little gem.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, if you would like to submit your feedback, like Sam, Catherine, or Tony, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. You can email us, runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying the show, be sure to tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you're ever going to need. And while you're at it, take a minute and give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love, get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We do indeed. Always appreciate that. And of course, talking about sharing the love, got to give those shout outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us, the Podcastica universe around us, of course. Lots of great stuff going on right here on the network with the cast of us finally wrapping up the coverage of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So Jason and Lucy taking on the finale, series finale, season finale. I don't know. We'll have to stick around and find out. I wasn't sure going through it. Now that I've seen it, without saying too much, I feel like it could be a series. That's it. That's done. Just the 6 episodes, and they've moved on from that story. I don't think there's anything else to add. But you never know. With the world of Gempel and the world of Walking Dead, there's always different stuff popping up from time to time. So, either way, you definitely catch Jason and Lucy's coverage of that final episode of The Ones Who Live, at least for now, probably forever, but for now, final episode. And yeah, I can't wait. I haven't listened to it yet, but that will definitely be on my docket tomorrow to check that out. Also, a lot of great other TV show podcasts on Podcastica. with Ben and Kristen over on the Revisited podcast as they're continuing their rewatch of Ted Lasso, now into season 3, this week with episode 2, I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. This is a great episode. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
And then Penny and Greg are back together covering Extraordinary on Hulu, and then it's on Disney Plus and stuff with those connections and internationally as well. So you can check that out. They're there for season 2. So they're starting that off with their episode 1 coverage, The Void. So you can check that out. Penny also busy hanging out with Kara and talking about some Buffy, as you can check out Still Slaying, as they are back running through season 3 of that show as well, with episode 13 this week. And they've got Steve and Jason coming on to cover that episode titled The Zeppo. So you can check that one out.
Yeah, that's got to be fun. I feel like Jason's been busy this week.
Yeah, just a little bit. Because the last thing I'm going to mention for Podcastica, of course, is this the comedy improv podcast. I mentioned it. It's bi-weekly. Every other week they release episodes. The Welcome to the Apocalypse podcast there with Randy and Rob and Jenny doing incredible work over there. It's always so much fun. It's hilarious. Love it. And their special guests this week are Jason and Lucy of the Cast of Us. And, they're really stretching their creative minds a little bit and playing roles that they never would have played in any other way. They're just really branching out and trying something new. Jason and Lucy are playing podcasters in the in the apocalypse.
Yes, I love this podcast. I have to tell you that it's the one that pops up on my feed, and I just have to listen to it right away because it's so fun and it's fresh and it's so different than anything else Podcastica is doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can't recommend it more. Just every week when we talk about it, when they have a new episode, check it out. It's funny. It's so great. And they put a lot of love and work into that one, and it's a ton of fun. It is one that's immediately like, oh, new episode, hit play.
You gotta listen to it. Margaret. Oh, Margaret. And you know what? Angry Adam, he's grown on me a lot. Yeah. And I love when Margaret is trying to make sure that things don't go off the rails, and she goes, wee, wee, wee. I love it. It's so great.
Wonderful, wonderful podcast. And yeah, so Randy, Jenny, Rob, if you're listening, would just give you praise every week. I hope you guys know how incredible and fun what you guys are doing, and we really appreciate the work going into that, because it's a blast. Also, get some merch going up, because
please,
Team Margaret t-shirts would be wonderful.
Yes, please. I'm ready.
Or medical expert shirts, something,
or stickers. Like I'm ready for the stickers.
A lot of great stuff.
Get on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. But of course, outside of Podcastica, we always make sure to give some love to our friends over at TV Podcast Industries, because they are working so hard as well, always covering lots of great stuff. And so right now they're covering 3 shows currently. Invincible, which the season finale was this week, so they'll be wrapping that coverage up. I haven't watched it yet, but maybe tonight, if I got a little extra time. I need to wrap that up. Because, it's been really great. Shogun as well, they're covering right now, the FX series, which is so good. Just watch it, everybody. Watch it. It's so good. A lot of great TV. And then, of course, the Disney Plus Star Wars animated series, The Bad Batch, in season 3 there. So they're wrapping that up. I think that's the final season for them. So pretty sure. Yeah. So lots of great stuff to check out over on TV Podcast Industries, working through lots of great stuff, great shows over there. So give them some love as well. But other than that, you can come back right here next week. Check out me and Daphne talking about some fun stuff. What are we talking about next week?
Well, next week we are not talking about a movie.
Oh no. No. Then what are we gonna do?
Well, it's interesting. Usually the nights that we podcast, we end up talking and telling stories and just having great conversations before and after we do the podcast. So we kind of decided that we would let our audience into, have the opportunity to listen to one of those conversations. So we're doing something a little bit different, and we hope that you guys will like it, because it's kind of given you a glimpse into who we are. And we've been doing this podcast for almost 170 episodes, and we really haven't done a lot of this. It's mostly been little comments here and there throughout the episodes. So we're going to give you a full episode that's about 45-ish minutes of us just kind of talking to each other, to you, about who we are and what we do outside of podcasting.
Yeah, just things we've been up to, things we're into, things we like. Just having a conversation. It'll be fun. Yeah,
it's different, but it's super cool. And yeah, it'll be available next Friday.
Yeah. So definitely check it out. And then I'll say, leave feedback. There's not really anything to feedback until after you've heard it. And then let us know if you enjoyed it after it's out. Give us some feedback and stuff with that. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we'll do more of them. Or if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, I don't know, anything. Cutting remarks, I don't know.
Oh, gosh. If there's anything you want to know, be sure to send the questions, and maybe we will, cover them after you've listened to it. You can send us some questions, and we'll elaborate a little bit further, and maybe we'll do an episode like this down the road. It was fun to do, so I hope that you guys like it. And with that, we have reached the end of our episode. Thanks for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.